turn this thing on. Great. So, I would normally say is what can't we discuss?
What can't we discuss?
Obviously.
Sheep in the Himalayas.
Right, so
we can't discuss that.
Any other mountain
because I'm
ranges?
not very interested in the Himalayas.
Okay, how about
so that's out.
The Andes?
Andes, well, you're one of them.
I don't have any sheep.
Okay, yes,
Good.
I noticed you got rid of them straight away, but we can't discuss that bloke with a really long beard walking past.
Wouldn't you
because
like
he might get annoyed and come over and
He
nick
looks
your
like
microphone.
He looks like he's fallen out of a jumble sale.
Yeah. Do they have jumble sales here? That's a nostalgic term. You don't remember jumble sales, do you?
I remember jumble sales very well.
Well, I suppose you look like you've been to a few. Only joking.
I have
only
a favourite
joking.
jumble sale. Do you have a favourite jumble sale?
A favourite jumble sale? Probably the one I went to in about 1978.
Wow.
Where they had about 100 Beano comics for 1p. I remember that.
Really? Yeah. I used to get my entire collection of Star Wars figures from jumble sales,
That's brilliant.
and they were like 10p a pop.
amazing.
Before the, I say it was about early 90s.
There's this mad program that's just started on this thing called Quest TV called Toy Hunter. Have you ever heard of it?
I've heard of Quest, but I haven't seen it.
And this American guy just goes around the country looking for rare toys, and it's fascinating.
Oh, well, he needs to go to the jumble sale in Hamble in 1993. That's
Yeah,
where he needs
if
to
we
go.
can arrange. I mean, he's probably a big fan of Doctor Who. He's got access to a TARDIS, no problem.
Some sort of time
For it.
device. It's the way forward.
What do you think of this Peter Capaldi bloke as Doctor Who? I'm not a massive Who fan, but
I like Malcolm Tucker.
yeah.
So I will
We all
tune
do.
in just for him to go, cunt, fucking cunt, hey.
That would be probably after the watershed.
I'd hope so. It would put off.
Yeah.
I went to
Doctor, what did he say?
yeah, Doctor. Ooh.
Doctor, oh.
Hold on a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doctor. There's going to be a few issues with that on the cutting room floor. I went to the screening of the 50th anniversary. I've never been into Doctor Who.
Me neither, really.
Not
Not really.
One of my colleagues on the podcast said, "You come along and see it." It was weird.
What sort of people did you get there?
Dressed up people,
Yeah.
but but not like they spent a lot of money on it.
Low budget Daleks.
Genuinely,
That's great.
It was like I couldn't tell.
Get the cereal packets out.
Yeah, that was 100%. It was like
Lovely.
Special K helmets.
That sounds good to me.
was
I would
like-
probably fit in there.
But I didn't know what they were trying to represent. There was nothing in the movie or the extended TV special that reflected the audience.
Yeah.
The second thing that worried me, they all got up and cheered.
Before it went on or
No,
after?
during.
During. This is interesting because when I went to see, there was a massively long gap, and then there was the next Star Wars film. There was that enormous gap, and then there was the Star Wars film with Ewan McGregor. And so I went to see that. Went to a really early showing of that. The audience were cheering as soon as it came on. By the end, it was just like,
They'd seen Jar Jar Binks too
you know what I mean?
too
It was
much.
like
too
everyone staggered out, going, "Oh my god!" But it was very popular at the very start. Anyway, certainly the first 3 seconds went down very, very well.
I went quite late on, and there were 3 of us in the cinema.
The word had got out.
Yeah,
Obviously,
clearly.
the word had got out.
Jar Jar.
I remember I went to see Good Morning Vietnam once in there when it originally came out, and I was the only one in the cinema. And they still played the adverts, which is interesting. They were sort of expecting me to go out and buy cars, and which I
Like,
did.
This guy looks like he drinks.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it worked. Unfortunately, I've got a garage full of these things. Normally you do have a garage full of cars, unless you don't drive.
It's just a garage then, isn't it?
Yes.
Full of
So
hopes.
I'm interested in this Doctor Who thing now. Now you're going to get a big audience of unusual people listening to this podcast.
If I start tagging it with Who, Doctor Who,
Yeah,
Capaldi,
You'll get millions of people going, "This isn't about Doctor Who."
and what do they
At
mean
least,
we're all
at least you'll
mental?
get the listeners. You'll get the listeners in.
I mean, if there's anything as a general life rule, it is get the listeners.
That seems to be the way, doesn't it, on the internet quite a lot.
Be popular.
Yeah, be popular.
Ooh, on
Yeah.
Twitter, be popular and everyone will listen and retweet you.
I know.
I'm not popular enough for that yet.
Well,
I'm working on it. I've got 5 accounts, but I'm still not popular.
Well, you see, you haven't been famous since the age of 24 or whatever. That can help. That can definitely help with some of your, if you get Twitter people that way, it's always useful.
not
Again, get the
inherited
TARDIS out.
Is that the go-to answer?
Yeah, everything I say is going to just be related back to the
What's
TARDIS.
your favourite maths equation? TARDIS.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
go find out.
Favourite maths equation?
Straight to the TARDIS.
Absolutely none, I'm afraid. Yes, I was never very good at maths. That was a massive sort of blank spot in my brain, and remains so.
I was told by my science teacher back in the land of GCSE, far far beyond land, hopes and aspirations.
GCSE pronounced
Gus, yeah.
Yeah.
I was told I would never pass science at GCSE.
Yeah?
I started in the 80% club, I went down to the 50% club, and then I got to the 30% club, and then they stopped giving out certificates for the club.
Man.
And she
Did you pass or not?
Well, she turned to me and said, "You'll never pass."
That's a horrible thing to say. What a
So
thing to say.
and she said, "I'm going to put you in the foundation paper because you haven't got a hope." So they sat the exam, the foundation paper, and it had all the equations written on the first page, the inside sheet, because they thought you were that stupid, you'd still get it wrong. I got 100% on both papers.
That's great. That is great. That's
Unbelievable.
impressive.
There you go. So there's a lesson there.
I was so bad at that sort of thing, I would still have got noughts. Yeah, I was terrible, man. I was terrible.
It's like doing a countdown conundrum, but the word's the right way around. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I was always sort of good at English. That was the thing. Good at English. Maths and science, absolute rubbish. I could never really understand why anyone would, in later life, why anyone would want to calculate the size of an oil particle. I mean, I personally haven't done it myself very often.
Right.
So, that went in one ear and sort of that was it.
What sort of oil? That's the question. Are we talking olive oil? Are we going middle class?
Even that wouldn't be very useful, would it? At a dinner party, you wouldn't all sit around going, actually, I've calculated the size of that.
That's
maybe you would. I don't know what sort of dinner parties you have. One's with food, I guess.
Yes, and balsamic vinegar in
Lovely.
oil.
Lovely.
Why not?
That was good. So that Doctor Who screening you enjoyed or you didn't enjoy?
I was a bit afraid.
Yeah.
I did. One thing I established: I didn't belong.
Right.
I didn't belong. I'm not one of them.
Yeah.
I went in, I did the normal thing, big bucket of popcorn, ate it within the first 15 minutes, sat there and thought, it's just a bit telly.
Everyone telling you to be quiet?
Yeah, and then stand up and start cheering. They'd see, Tom, whatever it is, Tom Baker.
Yeah, he turned up, did he?
Tom Baker!
He was there.
And then the guy looking like Tom Baker was like, yeah, I'm Tom Baker! And everyone's
That's
like,
the thing, isn't it?
I don't care.
This whole conventions thing is interesting, isn't it? If you were in Doctor Who for 1 second, you could probably make a lot of money for the rest of your life by going to conventions and signing things. I was man behind tree in the John Pertwee episode, Return of the Bananas or something. You could probably, people would queue for that.
I was in Burnley for my sins.
We're going to get so much shit for this book.
I went to Burnley.
You must not do this.
It was, but I've got through that now. I've gone through that stage.
Yeah, you got through it.
I went to Burnley. It was a Sunday, and I was.
What date of the year was it? That's the.
It was. What's that go with a month?
Just noting it down here.
It was in for the Inquest. It was
Inquest TV.
From the makers of Quest.
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah, a few legal problems with that one.
I think it was. Let's say May. It was in May. Okay. I was in Burnley on a Sunday in May.
Right. And is there any more of the story?
There is. I went for a walk in Burnley in May on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Still poetry in motion.
Yeah.
And I went to the football stadium, because that's where I was visiting the next day.
The stadium? Yeah.
Yes. They have a stadium in Burnley.
Okay.
A very old and traditional football club in that Lancashire Hill Valley based sort of town, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd call it a Hill Valley based town, but that's what I'm calling it. The Hill Valley based town, or otherwise known as
Welcome to our
Burnley.
Hill Valley based town, they say in an accent. Yeah.
Have a brew. Apologies for the Burnley listeners.
Yeah.
Hashtag Burnley.
Yeah.
And I went to the stadium, and it was a Star Wars convention.
Huh.
I wasn't expecting it.
Welcome, come in. No wonder they were talking in that sort of Alec Guinness voice. They said, "What are you doing? The Force is here. There it is over there, just behind the chair. Well done."
And they had Kenny Baker
Yeah.
at a little table. Had to be.
He must make a living off going to those such things.
Kid you not, they had David Prowse, the original
I've seen
Darth
him
Vader.
at these things as well.
And then they had the Nobodies.
The Nobodies.
And they had
Boba Fett himself.
No.
Who the hell's that? No one would know.
Literally.
I could do that.
Stormtrooper
I was
3.
Boba Fett. 50 quid for an autograph, please.
Yeah.
So they had, going back to the Phantom Message. The Phantom Message.
Phantom Message.
I'm going to write
yes.
that. Episode 8, the Phantom Message. It was a fax. Just kept buzzing through. The Phantom Menace.
What is this message? Oh, it is Phantom. Now I die.
Dial up you use. Antiquated you are.
Phantom fax message. That's very dated.
Jumble sale I found.
So you went to the Star Wars thing.
So I went in and I felt drawn. I had to go in.
Yeah.
Because this is unusual.
Well, it was the Force drawing you in.
Clearly. And it was full-on stormtrooper guys walking around with their the guns and a full uniform. With, Vader, a number of, a couple of Wookiees, small guys.
Yeah. Pack of Wookiees, please.
A couple of Jawas, which is interesting.
Lovely, yeah.
And David Prowse with a big queue of people, £20 a signature.
I know, yeah.
Kenny Baker.
Listen to this, right? When I went to the Comic-Con, the really massive Comic-Con,
in the
where
States,
it was,
or?
just right in the middle of London this year, Excel. And I think Carrie Fisher's autograph was £50. Yeah.
So that's a lot.
That's quite a lot, isn't it? I mean, no wonder she was there. But the thing is, these people, they don't need that money, though, do they?
I don't think so.
Not really. If you were in Star Wars, you don't really need to go to a convention and sit there signing autographs all day. I wouldn't have thought. I mean, what do they get out of it? A sense of I'm special sort of thing?
It's all cash in hand as well, isn't it?
Is it? I haven't.
It was.
Is it really?
David Prowse is all cash in hand. It was.
Cash in hand. I'm not coming. I'm going to do Green Cross Code adverts for the rest of my life. Otherwise,
you could have had a Green Cross Code poster for your. Strangely,
if you say to him, "Can you sign this as the Green Cross Code man?" He just signs an X.
Yes.
That's a joke for the teenagers.
That's a 70s gag.
I know, yeah. But then again, the 70s is back in a big way thanks to half of these conventions, isn't it? All this retro stuff is now current.
It was kind of depressing because the woman that appeared in the Phantom Messenger didn't exist. The woman that appeared in the Phantom Menace episode, whatever it is.
Yeah.
1, I guess, episode 1? Yeah, it is episode 1.
Yeah. He was no good at maths.
She was a pilot in one of the races.
Pilot?
You know when they were racing with Anakin?
Yeah.
Sel Boba. Oh, Annie, you're a very good racer.
Yeah.
In the voice of Yoda. And she must have been in the film for about 80 seconds.
Yeah.
And there she is.
Great.
All the hope in the world in her eyes.
I know. Was anyone queuing that?
No. She had a cup of coffee, so she had time to leave the stadium and come back. She went to the town centre, went to Tesco, came back, nothing. She looked at Kenny Baker there. He's got a PA.
Brilliant.
Kenny Baker's got his own person to hand him the things, and he just signs. David Prowse has got his own manager. What are we doing today, David?
Okay, sit here. This is another convention. Yeah, he's going to sit in that chair. Okay, right, I'm off.
Right, what's my motivation? Ripping off kids.
It's nuts, isn't it? It's mad.
And
what a great decision for those people to have been cast in that film.
So if you were going to be cast in episode 7.
Yeah, then you wouldn't have to.
Would you take that option?
Definitely, yeah.
You'd be Mr. John Dredge of the convention.
I just turn up in the middle of the film and say, hello. Yes. I'm John. Yeah, I just thought I'd turn up in the middle of this just to. I was in the area, to be honest with you.
In the galaxy.
So from now on, you'll see me at all the conventions. 30 quid, please.
You're undercutting Leia.
Yeah, what a brilliant job that would be. Just incredible. I mean, I hear William Shatner goes to these conventions as well.
Who was I speaking to about this?
These people do not need to do it.
Without needing to name drop, I was having a chat to Ed Byrne about this. We put an interview out with Ed Byrne a couple of weeks back. Fringecast, listen in on the website, ahhgeeproductions.com. And he was saying, William Shatner, he was doing it in his set actually. Shatner found on eBay people were faking his signature.
Right, yeah.
And then he'd also he'd go to conventions in, dressed up and track down people that were faking, saying, I can get you Shatner's signature. Imagine this sort of dodgy back street kind of, do you want to, because at a convention, it's no good selling them heroin. That's not going to go down well with the geeks, flumps maybe, and do you want a ripped off copy of, William Shatner's autobiography signed? Got a signed copy of Shatner. And Shatner goes along and actually threatens these guys because he's fed up with this. Because it's putting him out of business.
These people are not as others. I think they're just not as other people. That's great. I mean, my favourite Star Trek person has got to be Leonard Nimoy. Because have you ever heard Leonard Nimoy presents music and songs from outer space? That was his record. He made an LP. I think it was late 70s, and it's definitely worth checking out. It is so good. It was it was an album in the days where you got albums. Younger listeners may need to look that up on the internet.
We're talking
like vinyl. And he made this record. It was like 20 minutes aside, which is pretty short, but then a lot of it was just instrumental filler.
So
and
not-
then
not
the rest of
spoken
it,
word, or?
the rest of it, there was 2 or 3 tracks where he spoke on it, and 1 or 2 where he had to go at singing,
Okay.
and it is very, very funny
What
because he did
genre?
it straight. You know, he was trying to do a straight album, and it really was not. You know, didn't go down in. It went down in the annals of history. It really did.
Wonder why HMV's gone bust.
Yeah, and he did it. The opening. There's a very funny instrumental version of Star Trek, which seems to the Star Trek theme, which on an electric guitar.
Of course.
It just sounds like low budget Palatoy sort of Woolworths Star Trek version. It's sort of playing on a very, very sort of lo-fi guitar, and in the background at one point it was such a low budget recording you could hear someone moving a chair, just scraping a chair, and they just left it in. They couldn't be bothered.
I knew this wasn't going to sell.
Someone coughing in the background.
You carry on, Lennon.
Yeah. It's great. I love it. And, you know, I like the fact that he sort of has got a sense of humour about that sort of thing, looking back at it now.
Nothing to do with anything.
Nothing to do with anything. That's what this has been so far.
I did a bit of Twitterage today about nothing, because nothing fascinates me.
Nothing fascinates you? That sounds a bit boring.
Because-
That's unfortunate. What an interesting life you must lead if nothing
Indeed.
fascinates you.
Because to me, nothing is
Everything is uninteresting.
Yes, but is nothing something?
Nothing to do with anything. Yeah, I just like that phrase. I do this show called the Nothing to Do with Anything show, listeners. And that phrase, I liked that phrase because it's sort of meaningless. It doesn't mean anything at all. Nothing to do with anything. What does that mean? So anyone who thinks that, who's intrigued by that title, might like my sort of humour, which is basically a load of nonsense. So it's quite hard to think of like good titles for things, you know, things that sort of sum up the sort of show it might be. There's not many titles that do that really.
Well, what came first? The show concept, an episode, and then the title, or a title, concept, and then the show?
The whole thing was a bit stream of consciousness really. So I think I just sat down and thought, right, I'm going to do a really silly, nonsensical show, and then I just put my brain in sort of nonsense mood. I went in the nonsense mood room.
Yes, it does exist.
Yeah, it does exist. I have one in my house, and it's like a stream of consciousness type thing that emerged.
And what was that? What was the spark? You know,
Spark
you
was-
said, "Hey, I'm going to create nonsense."
Yeah. Well, I've always liked people like Spike Milligan. I always liked the Goon Show. I always liked Kenny Everett. Do you know Kenny Everett? His stuff was sort of weird stream of consciousness, sort of inventive, silly stuff. And I just thought, I've always had a lot of strange ideas, and I just wanted to sort of get them all out. So I thought I'll bung them all in this one show. And that's what happened. Yeah, lots of odd things going on.
And what was that process like? Was that, did that become episode 1, sort of series 1, episode 1? Was that a pilot? Did you just sort of put it on tape first and listen back and go, actually, let's publish it, let's get it out there?
We sort of started, me and my friend who's the producer, we started just doing like 2 or 3 minute shows. You know, we would do a show that lasted 2 minutes or something, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, just experimenting really, just on a little website that he had called 404funny.com. And we did a lot of this, and then it gradually developed until I just thought, I'm going to do a whole series of this, a series of 15-minute programs based on the sort of little demos we'd been doing. And I didn't know whether it would work or not, because I had nothing to base it on. I just thought, I'm just going to make it and put it out there and see what happens. Because it's a bit weird and a bit unusual and a bit odd, I wonder what the response would be, But in fact, it's been really good, really good. So sometimes it's a bit, if you've got a strange sense of humour, you can feel a bit exposed when you finally sort of put it out there in the internet. But because I wondered whether anyone would understand it, and all the peculiar references and things like that. But it's gone really, really well actually, and I've always liked radio and audio and the fact that you can just do anything at all on a budget of nothing. I always like the fact that you can just be anywhere with one sound effect and a bit of music. You can go anywhere, you do anything really. It just seems like a really limitless sort of canvas,
Well, that to me is the appeal of the podcast is total control. Radio is scheduled, you get 28 minutes. Podcast, if you want to put out 10 minutes, put it out there, see who listens, see what happens.
Yeah.
30 minutes, great. An hour, maybe a bit too long, but actually you've got that creative content to develop and do and put out there what you want. It's grown enormously. I mean, were you listening to other sort of examples before that, before your show? I mean, obviously you've got your sort of historical context of comedy and what inspires you and what you enjoy. Was there something that you were thinking, that works, I like that, there are other podcasts out there or other shows on Radio 4? Or...
Yeah, I think I did it because nobody else wanted to do it. No one was interested in that sort of thing, it seemed to me. And the only way I could express what I had in my mind sort of comedically was to actually write it, produce it, perform it and put it on the net.
Yeah.
That was the best, as you say, the great thing about podcasts. You can express yourself however you like. No one's saying, can you take out that particular word? It won't work in Chislehurst where they don't understand those sort of words. It's much more, it's like, it's freewheeling, doing it whatever you like.
Yeah.
Just let your imagination run riot. That's what I like about it. And you can have a vision or have an idea, put it out exactly as you want and see, as you say, if anyone likes it. And otherwise it's, how the hell are you going to get anywhere, really?
Yeah.
I don't know. Even things like stand-up, to me it seems like you're sort of limited a little bit by the sort of audience that goes to stand-up, generally speaking. Certainly when you start out, a lot of them are, it has to be a certain way to get a laugh in a room like that. Whereas with radio, with audio, you can just do what the hell you like.
Yeah, and I guess that's like parameters, really.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You've got that parameter, you have to sometimes conform or work around that. Whereas for me, the freedom of putting together, what we've done today, this is listenable to an audience, and actually, where people can. I quite like to challenge my own perception of what I can produce or what I want to put out there, and actually try things. And there's no, there's a safety blanket. You just put it out there. Because if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But you've got to learn somehow.
Yeah.
And I think this is the perfect platform to do that.
Yeah. And as I say, I did wonder what people would think of it because it's so odd. And I didn't really know anything else that was sort of like it, really. That I could put my finger on and say, this is like that. Because my frame of references are quite specifically odd. And so when we did put it out, and then it got picked up by the British Comedy Guide, it's on there at the moment. And we got some really good reviews, and some interest and stuff like that. It was a sort of relief that nobody thought I was mad, and it's just really great just to be able to write whatever you like and just get an audience for it, in that way. And you don't have to conform, you don't have to think of certain things you must do.
As a creative, an individual, that you're basically, there's no hiding. You're putting your ideas onto that format and it's out. It's there and people will judge it, enjoy it or not enjoy it. And to me, actually, that's what the best sort of comedy is. If you can split opinion, I think I've done a good job. If someone really hates it, they've listened to it and they've made an opinion. If someone really loves it, fantastic. But rather than someone going, it was all right.
Yeah.
When
you put things out there, you wonder how people who are really famous deal with it.
Yeah,
deal with all the attacks.
I agree. Couldn't agree more.
They must get a lot of flack all the time. I mean, I don't think people realise that there's a person there. It's not just some image to have things thrown at. And once you get really popular, God knows how that must work.
Well, how does the higher Twitter? Go back to Twitter. You get so many
what
comments.
Sort of messages must
people on Twitter.
Stephen Fry get every day? We
Millions,
don't know about.
Millions of messages. Millions of followers.
Yeah.
He's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
There's so few superlatives I could say that really describe how wonderful that guy is.
Yeah.
I haven't been lucky enough to see him present and do seminars and different things. It's incredible. But he must get just a barrage of shit.
Yes.
How do you run your social media?
Yeah.
If you're Ricky Gervais, if you're Al Murray, if
you've got to be careful. You've got to be careful.
New on the scene, and you're developing and coming into a career. John Lloyd, someone like that. Do they have a hidden Twitter account somewhere we don't know about?
Yeah.
Because you're so.
Stephen Fry's like he's got to be. He's got to be careful what he thinks, what he tweets. He's got to be careful what he tweets. You or me just put any old rubbish out there, and particularly you.
Well,
but
I'm very good at that. I think hashtag pray for Cockneys today was my favourite.
Just put rubbish, as another tag.
Just general
No,
shit.
so someone like
That
Noel
was like a
Fielding.
review. I liked it. That was
Someone like
listen to your work, it's basically shit.
Someone like Noel Fielding must get, he's left Twitter a few times because of it.
Well, he's right on the line.
So
Ray Peacock this
right.
year in his Edinburgh show was just saying the amount of abuse he gets.
is he? And he's not famous particularly.
And not in the
particularly
stratosphere
well-known,
of the global.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in a small network in the UK, and he's well a great podcast. It's not of that nature, but he gets so much abuse.
There was a bonkers story in the paper today about this Mary Beard, who seems to have befriended one of her internet trolls and got him a job. That is a genuine story that I just saw in the paper today.
Sounds like some sort of appeal. For £2 a month, you could adopt a troll and get them work with Mary Beard.
But people, I don't know how people that are really famous cope with it. I guess they don't. I guess in the end they say, right, my PA will now do all tweets.
PAs.
That's what I do anyway. I don't know about anyone else. There are actresses.
I employ an idiot. Don't worry, it's not me. None of this is me.
Hello there. Can I do your tweets, please? But some not particularly well-known actresses have other people that do their tweets for them. It makes me laugh. It's brilliant. So on one of my tweets, I put something like, my PA is now responsible for all my tweets, and some people believe this. It's a bit odd, isn't it? Twitter and social media.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It is incredible, but it can be scary.
What's your favourite part of that creative process?
What
Is it, for what you put out in general? So you'll put out little one-liners. You'll put out a quote in reference to TV or something that's happening, or something in the news, a podcast. The work that you do in that sphere.
Yeah.
What's your favourite part of that process? What do you enjoy most? Is it just popping the first thing in your mind? You're like, bosh. I'm going to put that out in some format.
Yeah, because I get all these odd comic ideas during the day that otherwise there'd be no outlet for, or it would be difficult to have an outlet for. So it's nice just to be able to think, okay, this is a weird joke I've just thought of, I'll put it out and see if anyone responds to it.
Yeah.
It's just nice to be able to do that with those thoughts, otherwise we just go unrecorded. And I think when people look on these sites, it gives you a vague idea of what that person's like. You can sort of tell a fair amount from someone's Twitter feed. Oh my God, some people that I've unfollowed is the amount of people I've unfollowed is quite a lot. You think they're going to be interesting people, and then they tweet something, you think, oh my God. I won't go into that, but there are people who do that.
But then,
I love being able to just to express myself in that way, like most people, I guess.
And then coming back to the podcast and actually creating it. I mean, how does the show? Talk us through that format of the show. How does it go from pen to podcast? How does it work?
Well, it's all very tightly scripted, and I just basically sit down and write whatever comes into my head. Although there's different features in the show, and different characters that keep turning up.
Okay.
And they tend to keep... But the way I've done it is I wrote Series 1, that was sort of all different features and sketches, nothing recurred. And then it did well, so with Series 2, I sort of brought a lot of those things back that had only been in Series 1 once. So I do these serials, these little adventure serials in this podcast. I think, you've got episode 1 in Series 1, episode 2 is not until Series 2, and by the third series you've got episode 3, so they're quite drawn out. That is not how something like The Archers works.
Well, they could do.
So it's quite good, so I just let my mind wander really. Like we have these serials, one's called The Case of the Thing That Happened. And originally it was only going to be one episode, and then I thought, no, I'm going to carry this on now. And it's about this guy, this Inspector something from Scotland Yard, his name is, and he's basically trying to find whoever it is that's stolen all the artichokes in the world. Someone's stolen all the artichokes in the world. And it turns out to be the artichoke stealing gang of New Malden. But you don't find that out till episode 2. And so, I don't know, I just let my mind wander. There's all sorts of weird features in it and characters, as I say, that come back if people like them, I guess.
Yeah.
I've got David Lynch comes on and reads the weather out.
Okay.
You know the avant-garde film director David Lynch.
Absolutely.
It's not actually him, it's me. But the idea
that. We'll cut that out.
Yeah. The idea is David Lynch reads the weather every week. Because I read somewhere that for a while he did actually read the weather out on a community station.
Brilliant.
One of his interests is reading is the weather. One of David Lynch's interests is the weather. So I thought that'd be good if we have him doing a weather report every week. So he comes in and he just sort of talks about his latest 8-hour film and annoys everybody and things like that. Anyway, the process is probably I'd sit down and write it, and then my colleague Richard Gray, who's the producer, co-writer, he'll sort of edit it and write other bits and say that doesn't work, that does work. Sends it back to me and we write like that. And then we get the cast in. We've got a small cast of really great sort of character actors. Yeah, we all go around to sort of Richard's house and record it, and he edits it, puts all these sound effects and music on. He's brilliant at sound design, I suppose you call it, just because I give him the most difficult sound effects to do.
Okay.
Like, a wall driving along at speed or something like that, and he'll somehow do it. And I just love combining sounds to get an unusual sort of sound picture.
It really adds another dynamic to the podcast.
Yeah, not that many podcasts use sound effects and music, really.
Not to an effect.
Not in that way. So the way we do it is like as if it's an actual radio show. A 15-minute radio comedy show, sound effects, music, cast, script. It's like that, and it's good fun. It takes a long time to write and produce. And then the last series took us about a year, the whole thing.
Okay.
On and off. On and off. We met once in January, and then once January 2014. No, it was. It took about a year on and off. Yeah, that series.
So that must
Why,
mean,
we ask?
Yes. Well.
Why bother? I don't know.
So where with series 4 then? Are you in that creative process at the moment?
I'm sort of thinking of.
Is it thoughts? Is it things you've written down, you've noticed? Are there recurring themes coming back? Is it an embryonic stage? I don't know.
I'm thinking about it. It takes me a while to get into that mindset of being committed to writing that amount of material again. Because writing a series is 6 15-minute programs. You have to be in that sort of mindset to really want to do it and go for it and do it properly. And so I'm sort of building myself up again. So I have a bit of a rest, and then ideas start to sort of formulate, and I think, that'll be funny, and some things continue. Like, as I say, we bring back certain characters. Yeah. There's this guy called Farmer Collins, who's a singer. He's a farmer who writes songs about agriculture, and so we have him come in. We have this thing called Dear Dredge, where people write in or phone in with their problems. Because I always thought, have you ever heard of? There's this thing in one of the newspapers called Ask Mariella.
Okay,
about
I know Dear Deirdre.
Well, Ask Mariella is Mariella Frostrup.
Frostrup, yes, okay, yeah, I've come across that.
And people just write into her with their problems, and I always thought, why would you do that? If you have a problem, why are you going to write to this person? She's not a psychiatrist, as far as I know.
I don't believe she's qualified.
She's just in the paper.
There's no certificate.
So maybe there must be a large amount of people who think, I don't know what to do about that. Right to Mariella Frostrup. I guess some people believe in Mariella Frostrup.
There needs to be a greetings card.
But it's there every week. People write in, Dear Mariella, I have a problem with my boyfriend. He is dead or something.
Yeah.
And so she has to. And then she just comes back, no problem, I know how to deal with this. Yeah. Being a journalist, I've come across this many, many times. I know how to deal with all these issues. Thank you very much.
It's like they don't ask Alex Salmond, because everything can end with, vote yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there should be different people.
You've got problems with my taps. It's probably a problem with the tap itself.
Dear De Niro, how about that?
Oh.
Dear De Niro, I'm having problems with my, my girlfriend. What should I do? Who gives a fuck? I don't know.
Next week.
Yeah. That wouldn't take up much of the magazine.
Or his time.
Yeah. De Niro Weekly.
Or his PA, whatever it is.
Your Cat magazine is very interesting. Have you ever read that?
Your Cat.
Yeah.
Your
Cat.
Cat.
Not my Your Cat.
Cat. No.
I picked it up. There's nothing to do with my cat.
Right.
It was like mainly other people's.
It's all opinions.
Yeah. I love these bizarre. There's thousands of these odd magazines.
So
you get,
if it was the French version.
Concrete Quarterly. There's one that I like.
Yes, okay.
I've read that many times.
Spoons.
Yeah, Spoons Monthly. But
it's amazing.
So these influences are things like that. The bonkers things
that really
you come across
just makes
are
you
things
go,
that are inspiring.
I could put that into a situation.
Yeah.
I could bring a character in. I could bring parody a celebrity, and it's.
Some things you don't really need to push that far for them to be hilarious.
No.
There's One of the best sketches we did on the last series was this thing based on an actual clip I saw on YouTube of a very early interview with Pink Floyd.
Okay.
And the interview was this guy called Hans Keller, who's this sort of strange German classical music scholar. Why he was interviewing Pink Floyd is not made clear. But he obviously can't stand them. And he's trying to, this is like an interview from black and white days of TV, and he's going, one thing I would like to ask you, Pink Floyd, first of all, why has it got to be so terribly loud? I personally just can't bear it. Why is it loud? I have grown up with classical musicians. It is not that loud. Please explain. And they're going, well, we just tend to like it. We just tend to like it. Yes, I can accept that, I suppose. Yes, he obviously hates them. So we did a sketch about that. We did. We just used the same character actually, and we sort of turned him into a strange interviewing person who interviews thrash metal groups. Another thing we do in the podcast is a sort of very surreal version of Terry and June. Have you ever heard of Terry and June?
Yes.
Because that's actually on again. All these old things are now on television again. So it makes my stuff seem more relevant. Yeah. I mean, I remember it the first time when it was terrible. Now it's on again and it's terrible.
It's a terrible plus one now.
Yeah. But we do these weird Terry and June spoofs where they end up like destroying the neighbour's house with an anti-tank gun. Stuff like that. And it all seems quite current.
Yeah.
But in other ways, sort of a bit old-fashioned in a way. But I just hope we can, develop it and get on with it, get somewhere with it.
Who did Ade Everton?
That was me, actually. Yeah.
Was it you, really?
Ed Everton, yeah, it was me. You heard that bit.
It's brilliant.
It's brilliant. Yeah, we did this sketch called Aid in Britain.
I broke my ankle about 2 years ago, and it was when Aid in Britain first came on. So I spent 12 weeks with Aid Edmondson every afternoon, and plus one, with him guiding as my therapy, because I'd look forward to that every day. Yeah. And it was just so cool to hear it. And actually, for me, it was brilliant. But I mean, I love Aid. He's brilliant.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
his music's brilliant. The comedy stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Again with Rick. But bring him back. Make sure he comes back. He's got to come back.
He's got to come back
in that fourth series. That's just a request from a fan. He's got to come back.
Yeah. Well, it's like, we do the sketch, so it's something like, and now, Adrian Emerson goes around Britain in another edition of Aid in Britain. And he comes and says, right, good evening. He says, I'm going around this bloody boring, bloody Cornish pasty shop, eating bloody boring Cornish pasties for some reason. Who are you bastard? That sort of thing. And then he basically destroys the shop. Yeah. Next week, Adrian Emerson destroys another shop. Yeah. We do the odd impression like John Peel.
Yes, very good.
On tonight's programme, Sessions from the Fall again, the 400th session from the Fall tonight. Various people. That's the good thing, you can just experiment with different voices, and that's another thing I got from Kenny Everett. I think he was the first person to do two voices at once. Yeah. And I always loved that. He would do Captain Kremen. I don't know if you heard of that. It was a space serial, and he'd just do all the voices. That was the first time anyone had done that, really, and that really influenced me. I just thought, wow, you can just do all the voices yourself. So I was always really was fascinated by that, and so we're sort of hopefully carrying on that tradition a little bit.
Yeah, but then with the voice artists that you work with.
That
repertoire can obviously.
Yeah. I might as well. I better mention the cast as well.
Please do.
So Richard Cray, he's the co-writer, producer, brilliant producer. I mean, in the last series, he managed to produce a disco version of the Archers theme tune, which you must hear to believe. It's incredible. He put the Archers theme tune to a sort of disco beat, and then after that, somebody says. The Archers Go Down the Disco was produced this week by Nile Rodgers. So the rest of the cast, you've got a chap called Greg Haste, who's a very good character comedian. He's just finished a run in the 39 Steps in the Criterion Theatre. We saw him a couple of weeks ago. It was great. He plays a bad actor in my show. He plays a sort of cross between himself and Donald Sinden. And then we have Anna Emerson, who just did Edinburgh this year. She did a show about a sort of Hollywood star. It went very well apparently, and she's in the Boom Jenny's sketch group.
Oh, okay.
They've been doing Edinburgh for a long time.
Yeah.
She's great. And a chap called James Shakeshaft, who's a very good stand-up. He does the sort of Radio 4 type announcing. And is that it? I think that is it, yeah. So there's a small cast, and we all record in a silly way, basically. I've probably forgotten somebody. Bernard Cribbins, oh yeah, he does stuff. We got Sally James from Tiswell's to do a few lines in the last series. That's before your time, but
it is a little.
It was nice of her to do it, and so yeah. Any famous people listening, get in touch.
Barrymore follows us, so he might listen.
Who does?
Barrymore, he follows us.
Does he?
Yeah.
Wow.
Had a little conversation with him the other day as well.
Very good. Very good.
There you go, Barrymore. How's things? I'm trying to get the chocolate box. I'm trying.
You're trying? Yeah. They cost too much.
Tough. They're not that desperate yet.
Well, I don't know. Get one in and no one will notice.
Theoretically.
Yeah, he can just do both voices.
Yeah, hopefully. I think they're the same person.
We do this thing in a podcast called the Shoe Shop News. I don't know if you've heard that. It's these brothers, Mervyn and Bernard Helicopters, and they just basically give news updates about their shoe shop that they run in Leighton Buzzard. And they just talk to each other about it, This week nobody came in. Yeah, no one came in last week either. That's true. Yes. So the good thing about audio is that any situation, no matter how ridiculous, you can just do instantly. And I'm surprised more people don't do it. Yes.
So which are the other podcasts that you're listening to at the moment? You're like, they're doing a great job.
Absolutely none.
Great.
Yeah, I don't. I used to. So I'm influenced by
radio shows or other things.
Well, I'm influenced by radio. As I say, certain radio shows. 4 Extra, I really like, because it's all the classics. Last week they've been playing. Have you ever heard of Vivian Stanshall?
Yes.
They've been playing a lot of his old shows, radio shows recently, they're great. They're sort of very surreal again, absurdist nonsense, with a sort of rock music edge I always really liked. The Goon Show's on every week on 4 Extra. That's always really great. The Burkiss Way is a favourite of mine. That is I suppose you could say almost like a Monty Python style radio show from the 70s. It was produced by John Lloyd.
Yes.
And it was written by Andrew Marshall and David Renwick. David Renwick went on to write One Foot in the Grave.
Yes.
And Jonathan Creek.
Early Creek,
yeah. So that's a really great show. It plays with form a lot, and we were influenced by that. You can still hear that every week. There's a program on 4 Extra. They're all old shows, A program called Son of Cliche. It was written by Rob Grant and Doug Naylor, and that is where Red Dwarf came from. Neil Innes I really like, of the Bonzo Dog Band. He did a radio series called In His Own Words. It was pretty mad. It's sort of classic stuff, really. Hancock. Anything that's on 4 Extra I tend to really like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good recommendations.
Yeah.
There it is.
The Boosh on radio was pretty good.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Boosh? That splits people down the middle.
No, I enjoyed the earlier series, I must say. The live stuff was pretty good.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It needs to come back.
Yeah.
There's a gap.
Yeah.
There's a gap for Boosh.
The Noel series was sort of good, but I think not quite as good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right,
I don't know how the hell you could have
let's
edited that
finish
down.
off with where can we find you on the social media?
Yeah. Okay. Right. You still on? Yeah.
We're still going. We've got just about enough battery.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, well, my Twitter name is @John Dredge, and also I'm on Facebook, John Dredge. There's not many people with that name. It's a bit weird. And if you want to listen to my podcasts, just go to the British Comedy Guide, put my name in, and they will come up. There's 3 series on there. They're all 15-minute episodes, and hopefully, you'll find something of interest there. So that's it. And also a YouTube channel and my double act's called King Dredge. Lots of silly, bonkers sketches on there. There you go, sir. That's where you will find me.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. And Merry Christmas. May the Force be with you.
Yes.
I'm Peter Pillerbeam, amateur hotel critic, well known on websites such as TripAdvisor.com, but despite what some people say on there, I'm not a fanatic! My online hotel reviews have proven so successful in my own mind that I've decided to turn them into this spectacular radio presentation, and today I will be reviewing The Gables in Bexhill. The first thing I noticed when I got to the hotel was the awful stench. This later turned out to be the result of a sandwich that had been left in my pocket for several weeks, but nevertheless it did not bode well. The owner greeted me at the door with a rather loud hello rather than the brisk handshake I prefer. Was I in for a problematic time? On entering the lobby, I saw a painting of the sea on the wall, which made me extremely anxious as I'm unable to swim. The dangers of the ocean waves were now playing on my mind, and I felt that to have such a frightening image in full view of the reception area was somewhat inappropriate for visiting families. Once in my room, I noticed a small fridge containing a complimentary bottle of champagne, which I immediately complained about, as to my mind this sort of thing encourages alcoholism. At first, the room appeared spotlessly clean, but after a while I noticed flakes of skin all over the floor. Admittedly, this was due to my eczema, but the cleaners were unable to get all the flakes out of the carpet for some considerable time, thus encroaching on my daily 10-hour nap. The following morning, I was served breakfast in bed, which was very annoying as my specialist reverse diet requires me to start the day with an evening meal. Hadn't they thought to inquire? The brochure had mentioned the fact that there was a spacious dining area in the hotel, but this turned out to be completely untrue because when I got there at lunchtime it was full of people. Unhappily, this brought on my recently diagnosed xenophobia. Yet my simple request for the other diners to be moved to a different room was met with thinly disguised scorn. So much for the welcoming atmosphere. On visiting the bathroom, I was shocked to discover that there was no water coming out of the taps. When the manager informed me that they had to be turned on first, I admonished him about the lack of instructions. To cap it all, I was very offended at the end of my stay when I was expected to pay some sort of bill. I found this both awkward and uncomfortable, especially as I had no money. I was then moved to a room that looked almost like a prison cell, which I'll be reviewing in my next presentation. And let me warn you, it's not going to be pretty. Thank you.